Hello, and welcome back to my Power Miners Retrospective. My name is Jack Back, and today we'll be taking a look at the Granite Grinder. No, not that. 8958, Granite Grinder, as well as the curious case of the characters of Power Miners. Now, before I go any further, I would like to call out some more subtle connections to Rock Raiders within the Granite Grinder, beyond just the name. First, it is the only Wave 1 set to feature an official alternate build, which we will look at later in this video. Second, its combiner model with the Thunder Driller, the Arrow Shredder, is the only air vehicle in the theme, and could be a nod to the tunnel transport. More on that with the Thunder Driller episode. Today we are once again joined by Duke, but a very different one. There are a total of 3 characters referred to as Duke in Power Miners, but then how do we know who's what? Well, don't worry. Through a lot of study, I've been able to identify precisely what's going on with these characters. Beard Stubble Guy is his own character, while Orange Scar and Duke are the same. How do I know? Well, we can rule out Beard Stubble Guy and Orange Scar being the same character, as they're the only 2 out of these 3 to ever show up in the same set, that being the underground mining station. Also, by looking at the faces of all 3, it becomes clear that Orange Scar and Duke are very alike. They have the same unibrow and the same scar, when one takes into account their differing facial expressions. The large difference is the grey on Duke's face, which, despite looking like a beard, is actually a bunch of soot, which leaves a clear outline where his goggles would go. In conclusion, Orange Scar and Duke are one and the same, while Beard Stubble Guy is someone else entirely. The homogeny of Power Miners' characters really isn't doing it any favors here. Well, back to Duke, now that we know he's actually Duke. He doesn't come with anything new, aside from a new face print. He has an alternate scared expression, as always, and it seems that he went on to join the World Racers after the Power Miners mission ended. Our second character for today is Glaciator, the third and most common of the Rock Monsters. He has appeared in 4 sets as well as 1 gear item, that being the Power Miners Watch. Quite the oddity, and also very rare. This set also marks the first appearance of the Blue Crystal. This is the only set of this wave that I actually still have the box for. It's in pretty bad shape, but I still think it's worth taking a look at. As is the case with all the boxes, the back shows the different play features as well as the combination models. I also thought it was interesting that the choking hazard bit specifies a small ball, referring to the 53585 Technic ball than an axle hull. The box also displays a 1-to-1 of the Rock Monsters, as well as an interaction between the characters included. The vehicle number is also featured on the side. Now, for a closer look at the Granite Grinder. First and foremost, this set gives us our first proper play feature in the form of this mining apparatus that moves back and forth as the vehicle moves. Aside from the rubber band, I think the mechanism is very well concealed and doesn't harm the look of the model at all. This is something that Power Miners does really well in my opinion. The mechanism works with these knob gears on the rear axle that push the ball that connects to the mining apparatus forwards, followed by the rubber band pulling it back when the knob gears give space for that as the vehicle rolls along. As mentioned, this vehicle looks great. A very polished model, with nothing awkward sticking out and a solid enough build overall. And unlike last episode's Cave Cutter, this vehicle gives the driver a space to both sit and stand, and neither look weird, which is certainly welcome if unusual. However, there's unfortunately not really any good place to hold it that doesn't completely hinder view of it. In tow, there's a rare orange 4080 tipper bed, which makes its first appearance here, and was only ever included in 1 other set, also being Power Miners. It is attached to the Granite Grinder via this dark bluish grey chain, which is a mainstay of the first wave. This offers quite a lot of storage space for whatever material the Granite Grinder digs up, though it is shown to be used for tools as well. Namely, the included dynamite piece, which unfortunately doesn't have a clip to go on. This set also features this axe piece that makes its only appearance within Power Miners here, and is as old as the common pickaxe. This set also comes with 2 of these tanks, one of which houses gas, and the other houses some other flammable substance. Gaseous if the commercial is to be believed. Finally, this floodlight, which is attached the same way as the axe, which leads me to believe it doubles as a handheld light, if a massive one at that. This nifty sub-build also appears twice in the Crystal Sweeper, but unfortunately no other sets feature it. Some other noteworthy elements of the Granite Grinder's construction are these white 30383 locking hinge plates that don't connect to any counterparts, but rather work as axle stoppers inside the chassis, which is unique. Worth mentioning also are the Lime 50950s and 60481s, both of which make their first appearances here. Finally, there's also the orange 44818. This is a recolor of the Bionicle Rockshi Staff of Poison, much like the orange claw last episode, which was a recolor of the Mari Matoran blade. Both are examples of a theme within Power Miners of recoloring Bionicle pieces to orange for play features. This is not the last time that this trend can be seen, but here the recolor remains set exclusive. Now, in terms of modifications, the mismatched axle colors are an unfortunate trend in Power Miners that is a result of the play features connected to the wheels or treads. If you want the axles to be the same color on the Granite Grinder, the easiest way to do so is by making the front axles black. This can easily be achieved by replacing the old axles and locking hinge pieces with black 4-long axles and Technic bushes on the other side. Nothing else needs to be done, and it doesn't impact the function at all. Another thing you could do is flip the blade and have the rubber band go underneath, like so, but I'm not sure if that really helps. A strange detail about the Granite Grinder. At the back of the cockpit, some odd extra pieces can be found. There really doesn't seem to be any good reason as to why they're here, until one considers the alternate build. Yes, the alternate build for the Granite Grinder, known as the Cargo Crusher, puts some of these pieces to use. So let's take a closer look at it, shall we? The Cargo Crusher is an ambitious remix of the Granite Grinder, which turns its hacking function into a drilling function. On paper, this seems good, but the Granite Grinder doesn't quite have the pieces to make it work. Following the images found on Wikipedia, you can see all the pieces that are left unused. Following these images got me a pretty iffy result, even if the function works surprisingly well most of the time. The axle that runs through the vehicle, front to back, is just a bit too short, needing to be at least half a stud longer. This doesn't exist, so an 8 long would do perfectly, but that obviously isn't included with the set. Aside from this, there are also a fair few flimsy bits on the model, like the small roll cage mounted lights and these weird bits that stick out at the front. However, one positive note is that the rear of the model is easier to hold on to than that of the Granite Grinder. Overall, I appreciate that the Cargo Crusher exists, and considering how limited the designer ultimately was when taking into account both the small amount of Technic pieces as well as how limiting the treads are, the Cargo Crusher is definitely a success. It makes you wonder if some of the other Wave 1 sets were meant to have alt builds too, and were just lost to time or scrapped before release. After all, there's next to no promotional material for the Cargo Crusher either, even less than the limited edition sets. The only clue to it even being an official model in the first place is that the instructions for it have apparently existed in New Zealand. The instructions are nowhere to be found online, however, so if you know where to find them, I would love to know. But that's not all. I've designed my own version of the Cargo Crusher, still only using pieces of the Granite Grinder that improves or fixes the mentioned issues. I've used a lot more pieces, lifting some sections straight from the Granite Grinder, like the small headlights, the tool clips, and the floodlight. With the additional pieces I've also fit in more detail everywhere, such as the additional parts at the back of the cockpit and the valves within the treads. I've also changed all the flimsy points. The roll cage mounted headlights are gone and the little prongs at the front have essentially been retracted. Still, this build does have a few incongruities, like the gap between the round white bricks and the 1x4 control panel tile. There's unfortunately not much to be done about it, however, as there's barely any more pieces available. And that about concludes today's episode of the Power Miners Retrospective. Join me once again next time for a closer look at 8959, the Claw Digger.